Good morning from Turkey. We're gonna start our day off today with a nice cup of Turkish tea. Nothing beats a culture centered around tea. So let's go see the tea about Turkey. Woo! Okay, we've been pulled off one bus, and now we're being told to get into another bus. This is already turning out to be an adventure. Woo!
That's why, because they are afraid from him.
3 hours later.
We're gonna explore Ephesus, you guys. Welcome to Ephesus, one of the greatest ancient cities of the world. Built in the 10th century BCE, this city became a powerhouse of culture, commerce, and some seriously impressive engineering. Are you sure you should be eating that? I thought cats were lactose intolerant. Under the Romans, it flourished into one of the most important cities in the empire, home to over 250,000 people at its peak. If you're into Christian lore, Ephesus was a main player in many events of the early Christians. From the writings of St. John, writing his self-titled book, to the early evangelism of St. Paul, over time, Ephesus became an early cornerstone as Christianity would gain popular amongst the Roman Empire. But like all great empires, Ephesus had its rise and fall. Earthquakes, conquests, and a battle with mosquitos slowly turned this once thriving metropolis into a ghost town. Today, we're walking through its legendary ruins, uncovering myths, the marvels, and the mysteries that still linger in its stones. Let's explore! First, we must get through the gates. Now check this out. This whole area would be covered with wood to protect from the sun and the rain. We're in between the two mountain ranges right now. And that's why Ephesus was built here, because they could guard the city. The city was massive, built by the Hittites, added on by the Greeks, added on even more by the Romans. So we have some of the world's best engineering still standing in the city and being enjoyed by cats. Hola! Hola, gato! Okay, cat doesn't want to be selfied. We see images of the Christian church. Wow, look at all of this, you guys. Carved into the stone, thousands of years old. We're walking on original floors. And there's a lot of cats. So what we're standing in front of right now is where the Senate would debate and government would be held. Look at all of the Senate. Those people aren't government. I don't know, maybe they are. Didn't that TikToker just get a seat on the EU? Okay, let's go walk up some of these stairs. I almost fell over. Let's go walk up some of these stairs. So government would be had here. If you were a baddie, your case would be held here. Look at all of this. So we're in a very geographically active area, and Ephesus fell a couple of times. Ultimately, because there were so many earthquakes, and because there was mosquitoes, it was abandoned. Because mosquitoes brought disease. And while the people here were very smart, they didn't have a cure for malaria yet. At its peak, Ephesus was 250,000 people. A massive city at the time. A port city full of trade, connecting science and philosophy and libraries together. Let's see if we can get someone to wave. We're just gonna wave. 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 Yeah, we got someone to wave. What's in this little hole? Hello? Oh. Can we go inside? The puerta's abierto. This is amazing. Wow. Hi! I found the side entrance. They had big legs back then. I would have been a short Ephesian. Ooh, we're descending into the city. Now, a lot of the city is still buried because of the earthquakes and geology that has happened. So every summer, archaeologists come in and unbury a little bit more. So if you come here, it's probably going to be different than what you see me showing you. Because, like over here even, you can see it under the floor. Look at how impressive this is. Perfect square lines without a computer. All of the tools that they used to make sure they sat flat and straight.
Şeyi neden yılan ve şey kullandıklarını da size anlatacağım. Bilmiyorum biliyor musunuz? Niye yılan?
What was this? Maybe a fountain? Maybe an altar? We can still see like the grapes and the pine cones carved in. I like that there's this mix of both Greek and Roman architecture like all throughout this. So this is where the hospital would have been, and the hospital was manned by the priests. They would experiment with medicine and with water treatments and all sorts of stuff in here. And it was at the end of the government system, like the government alley road thing. So of course, the higher class you were in the city, the more official hospital treatment you got. But right next to the hospital was the high street. Now the high street was where all of the fancy shops were at. Because remember, we're at a port city where stuff would come in from East Asia, from Africa, from Western Europe. Okay, now there was this really evil Roman emperor. I mean, I guess a lot of them were really evil, but whatever. He decided to build a temple. And his temple is here, right next to the hospitals, right next to the high street. So everyone would have seen his temple. And this is what's left standing of it today. We can see on top the god to Dionysus, the god to Athena, the god of war and protection. Now we're standing where, whoa, what's that? That's cool. Where his temple would have been. And look at this architecture that we have here. Standing out here in the open. You can see still over here all of these arches that have fallen from the earthquakes and all of that sort of stuff that happened across the years. Little flowers. I wish we could go beyond that fence. Maybe there'd be dragons, but we're not. We're gonna go look what's inside this little hidey hole. Hello, is the puerta abierto? Cuckoo. Whoa, look at that. We have some really old stones down here that have not been restored yet. What else do we have? What do we see? Okay, we'll see in the edit. Look at that stone, though. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's go look in this other door. Ooh, pipe. Oh, the cool thing about these pipes. So they would fit together. There's a male end, man end, woman end. So you would stick this part in that part, and they would connect together throughout the city. We have archaeology in here. All of these parts are numbered in a certain way. So whenever the archaeologists come back in the summer, they're probably gonna put them back together over here. Oh, and we see Latin inscription. So because both the Greeks and the Romans were here, we see both Latin and Greek inscriptions all over the place. Wow, look at that. That would have been some sort of like a secret idol hiding room. Woo! Now just imagine coming on the street, bustling with traders who came fresh off the port. Maybe someone just haggling you for a deal, like they do in Oxford Circus or in the Grand Bazaar. Haggle, haggle, haggle. Fish for sale. How much is that fish? Woo! This could have been a back entrance to a room. Wow. Maybe this is where the shopkeeper would have slept. So then when he woke up in the morning, he could just, you know, pop through here and go sell his goods. Look at this shop. In here, this one would have been covered, I think, because we see a lot of pillars that have fallen down. I mean, just take a look at this marble piece right here. This is impressive. Oh, this is cool. So here, we see where the door would have been, here and up here. Whoop. Open for business. I have fish. Oh, look at that. Well, I think those letters are upside down, but still, they represent a massive pillar. Okay, let's continue walking down High Street and see what other stuff would have been sold in this impressive town. Now down this street, spices from the east, oils from Africa and from everywhere would have been sold here. What was then probably a semi-slippery street. Today is treacherous. Whoa, treacherous. Is that how they got the word Tetris? Look at all of these little shops. Okay, we're passing through the Hercules Gate now. Lore has it that if you can touch both sides of the gate at the same time, you get magical powers. Yay, we're tall enough. Woo. No magic powers for her. Now today we only probably have about 5,000 people on the street. Okay, maybe 500. Can you imagine 250,000 people in this city? How busy it would have been. Probably would have smelled really good. All sorts of oils and perfumes coming from all parts of the world. Unlike today's modern Oxford Circus or Piccadilly or other shopping centers that I don't know. Westfield's a good idea. This was a Westfield of ancient times. Maybe that's the Harrods has to be the Harrods. Okay, check this out. Now we're gonna take a look at an old house. Like this is right on High Street, so this would have been owned by someone who was super rich. And just look at that, you have some stairs going up. We would have a couple of terraces, maybe some hanging gardens right next to a fountain. You'd have water running down here. Now, you know me, I love mosaics. Look at this.
Impressive design on the floor. They call mosaics. Second floor, still strong.
Okay, so Hadrian. Excuse you. Hadrian, my favorite Roman Empire, the guy who built the wall in Scotland to protect them from the Picts. He was actually a really good dude. So after he died, the people built an entire temple to him to remember him. And this is it. And I find it interesting, like they didn't build a wall. Hadrian was builder of walls. He was really good at that. But they built this beautiful little temple just to go and remember a really cool guy. And now we're walking behind the backside of the temple. Whoa. We found some friends walking also on the backside of the temple. Oh. We see a man without a head. Vroom. Be a night person. Look at that. A dude just chilling out there. How cool. Some old gateways. Look at this arch. It would have been standing straight up. Keystone is broken, which is probably why the arch broke down. Well, it's okay, little guy. We all need a break every now and again. So as you can see here, they're restoring the backside of Hadrian's temple. So we don't get to see that part. Behold, the public toilets of Ephesus, a place where business deals, politics, gossip, and well, other business happen side by side. No privacy, no shame, just elite Romans vibing on marble thrones. And if you were fancy enough, you had a servant to warm the seat before you sat down. Talk about VIP treatment. Back then, it was a stream of water that did all of the work. And toilet paper? Nah, they had leaves on sticks, which were shared. I'll let that sink in. Now, history is cool and everything, but I think I'll stick to the 21st century for this one. There's really cool things on all of these rocks and stones. All sorts of secret messages and writing. See, after the Egyptians developed a way to transport writing, it inspired the rest of the world. And we probably have Alexander the Great to thank for bringing that technology back to the rest of Europe, spreading it out to the east, and then the Romans took that and spreaded it up north. Spreaded it? I don't have English today. That's okay. So now we're standing in front of some of the most impressive structures that we have from the ancient world. So the biggest library in ancient times was in Alexandria. And as we learned in Alexandria, it got destroyed over a couple hundred years. You know, there was a fire that Julius Caesar set, which destroyed a bunch of the books in there. And then, you know, other stuff happened, some earthquakes, etc. Well, second biggest library was in Pergamum, just a little bit north of Izmir. And the third biggest library was this beauty that we have here still standing. Now, in this library, there was books of papyrus and all sorts of relics that scholars and scientists and philosophers would write and they would study. They would come in these gates. Wow, look at these marble pillars. Now, when archaeologists found this, it was in rubble, so they've reconstructed it and put it back together like a big Jenga block. Now, this library was dedicated to Tiberius Julius Sallus, who was another Roman emperor. And after he died, oh, maybe that's him. Who knew? After he died, his son buried him in the middle of the library. I don't know why, kind of weird, but you know. And like in here, and all of these walls would be lined with papyrus scrolls and all sorts of stuff. Well, after the library burnt down in Alexandria, the people here got really scared. They didn't want their own library to burn. They didn't know papyrus was flammable. So they turned from using papyrus as a written source of storing all of their secret and sacred text to using leather because it burnt way slower. Look how it would have been multiple floors tall, maybe some staircases in here. And as it would have it, there's something a little bit cheeky about this library. So, if you were a married man and you wanted a little action, you would tell your wife you're going to the library, and you would come in here, you would go up these secret steps, bunk, 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 and down the secret tunnel. What's inside the tunnel? Well, the tunnel goes all the way across the street and ends in the brothel. So it's like telling your mom you're going to school and ending up at the video game parlor, except you're going to the library and you're ending up in someone else's party in the pants. Okay, and now this is the brothel that stood right across the street from the library. And in here, there was just a couple of different houses. So there's a secret tunnel that ends in. Oh, I see it. I see it. You'd enter on the backside. Look at this. Okay. So the secret tunnel would go from the library and you'd end up walking out here on the backside of the brothel. So you would be super discreet. You'd keep your knowledge, you'd keep everything, your reputation that you had with your wife, with everybody else. and you do some naughty action in one of these rooms. Maybe a little tiny back room if you liked a little bit of more tiny pleasure. Or maybe you were tiny and you wanted everything to look bigger. You know, to each their own. Props, dude, props. Another room over in here. The thing to note, like, it's pretty loud outside. And even in here, like, the walls are very low and you kind of can't tell. So this would have been a really quiet and serene place. You can even see a difference in how the tiles are made down here. Okay, so if you weren't a scholar, and if you didn't go into the library, how did you know where the brothel was? Of course, by very specially placed advertisement. Okay, so here's how this worked. Sailors would come who didn't know how to speak Greek or Roman. They would see the left foot go that way on the left side of the street. There's a little statue of a woman there. The box is a library, and then you see a coin hole. If you pay money, you get happiness. Woo. So not only is it an advertisement, but it's also directions on how to pay, like what's expected, what you get out of it. I think that's so cool. It's like you don't need language for that. You just need whatever. So why is the left foot? Well, the port is to our right. The left foot means continue to walk this way down this main thriving street next to the library. And, you know, get your giggity on. Okay, check this out. So if you were a sailor selling your goods from China or from India, from Pakistan, you would float in on a harbor and you would sell them here. Now, we didn't have Google Translate at the time. So what they did instead was they picked up a marble tablet and drew an emoji of what they were selling. So that way you didn't have to really use language to sell. You could just go sell your goods based on the image, make a bunch of money, and then sell back home. Or maybe go sail your way to see the pretty ladies. Woo! Okay, right next to the marketplace, the Agora, we also have the theater. Now, one thing I want to point out in the walls, you see all these divots, and that's not where the marble is falling off. That's where there used to be metal statues in there, and they ended up taking those metal statues out and melting the metal down for weapons or for more coins or for something else. So just imagine how immaculate this would have been back in ancient times, full of statues of past emperors, of gods, of really cool stuff. All right next to the Netflix of Ephesus. Whoa! Dun dun! So we can't actually go in because Netflix is down for maintenance. But this is where you would go see playwrights and songs and sermons by the apostles later in the day. Now, can you imagine entering the town and just seeing this towering above the town? Maybe you'd be bringing a huge bag of spices or herbs or something, and you just have all these people in there cheering as someone died from being eaten by a wild lion. See, today we have horror movies. Back then, they just had people be killed by savage dogs, like that one sleeping in the sun. But we know it was a gladiator place because of the huge wall that separates the stage floor and the first seat. See, people in the first row didn't want to also get eaten. They just wanted front row view. Now, some of the more evil emperors of the Roman Empire loved blood. And that's when they would bring in like slaves and animals and all sorts of stuff into the seats, which is really, really rude and evil. Maybe that's why they were evil.
Okay, so that was our tour here today in Ephesus. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Keep exploring. See you next time. Ciao.